So many times we go through hardships and we go through struggles, we go through trials, we go through sufferings, we go through trauma, and we wonder, is God with us? Is He there? Where is God in all this? And we can know that the Bible actually says not only is God with us, but in all these things, in everything, God is for us in the midst of our troubles, in the midst of our sufferings, in the midst of our trauma. And this is very reassuring. And here in Romans chapter 8, I'm going to read from verse 18 to verse 32. I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. The creation awaits in eager expectation for the sons of God to be revealed. For the creation was subjected to frustration, not by its own choice, but by the will of the one who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will be liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into the glorious freedom of the children of God. We know that the whole creation has been groaning as in the pains of childbirth right up to the present time. Not only so, but we ourselves, who have the first fruits of the Spirit, groan inwardly as we wait eagerly for the adoption as sons, our adoption as sons, the redemption of our bodies. For in this hope we were saved. But hope that is seen is no hope at all. Who hopes for what he already has? But if we hope for what we do not have, we wait for it patiently. In the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit Himself intercedes for us with groans that words cannot express. And He who searches our hearts knows the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for the saints in accordance with God's will. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. For those God foreknew, He also predestined to be conformed to the likeness of His Son, that He might be the firstborn among many brothers. And those He predestined, He also called. Those He called, He also justified. Those He justified, He also glorified. And what shall we say in response to this? Is God for us? If God is for us, who can be against us? He who did not spare His own Son, but gave Him up for us all, how will He not also, along with Him, graciously give us all things? So here, from verse 18, we see that Paul is talking in the context of suffering. I consider that his present sufferings are not worth comparing to the glory. And we can see three things here in this passage. Firstly, that these sufferings will come to an end. There is hope. There is hope. He has given us a hope. It is in this hope that we have been saved. What hope? The hope of the redemption, the hope that all the suffering that has come through the fall, that has come through Adam, will be done away with eventually at the redemption of our bodies. And the creation, it is not only us as people who are suffering trauma, and the whole of creation is groaning for that time, the redemption. And we, along with that, with the rest of creation, groan, we long. Yes, we say, how many times do we say, I wish the Lord would just come and take me now? And of course, that is a good wish if we really desire to be with the Lord, but not just to escape our present situation. It is not good just to want to escape and have an escapist attitude going through what we're going through. Yes, we often wish it would just be over. And it is difficult. It is hard. But the Lord doesn't only give us hope. He helps us. He helps us in the time of weakness. In the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know how to pray, but the Spirit Himself intercedes for us with groans, with words that cannot express. He intercedes. He comes between us. He upholds us. He lifts us up to the Father. He lifts us up to the throne of mercy, where we find grace. where we find mercy, where we find help in time of trouble when we need it. And He has not forsaken us. He is not only with us, but He's for us. We think, how can God be for us? If He were for us, He'd be fighting on my behalf. He wouldn't have allowed this to happen. Well, not necessarily. In this world, we will have trouble. But I've overcome the world, says Jesus. And He said that we would have trouble. And He said He's for us. And if He said so, we need to believe it, even if we don't feel it. Because we can't always see what is happening and what God is doing in our lives. But He is with us and is for us. There's one thing to be with someone, practically, physically, but there's another thing to be for the person altogether, to be with you and to be for you, to be pro doing what is good for you. See, in all things, God works for the good of those who love Him. In all things, not only in the good things, in the bad things as well. He's working for our good, for your good. Are you going through hardships? Are you going through trials? Are you going through trauma? Are you going through grief? Sometimes we wonder, how is God doing something good and taking something good out of this? And we need to believe that He is. Sometimes we can't understand where He's getting that. But in the end, we find He's really working for our good. He's working for our good. He's working for the good of others. And out of this, maybe we can touch. Our experience would be able to allow us to touch other people more meaningfully, to have an impact on their lives, because we have a sense of understanding of where they're at. And we do live in a broken world. We do live amongst broken people, and the people around us who are broken need us to understand them. And so sometimes God allows us to go through things to allow us to identify with the brokenness of others, to lift others up in their brokenness, to allow them to also see the hope that God has for all of creation and for them as well. And that if God is for us, who can be against us? God is for us, and He has given His all for us. He understands. He gave His only Son, His only begotten Son, to give us all things. Maybe not all in this life, but we need to hold on to the hope of the better to come. And so I trust that we will hold on to God, to what He has for us, even if we can't see what it is right now, to latch on to Him, to hang on to the hem of His garment, to be like that widow, that poor woman who was bleeding and just touched His garment and was healed. She held on with hope, with anticipation, with desperation. And sometimes whatever it is that causes us to be driven to Jesus, just to touch Him, that He might touch us and bring healing and wholeness to us. Let that drive us not away from Him, but to Him, that we might come into the wholeness and the fullness of what He has for us, because He has given us hope. He's with us and He's for us in all things. Amen.